Thanks for tuning in to VSB After the Bell. I'm your host, Gianna Chow. VSB, otherwise known as the Vancouver School Board, is located on the unceded traditional lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. The district is among the most diverse school systems in Canada, with an annual enrollment of just under 50,000 students, from kindergarten to grade 12 and adult education students. It's the end of the school year, and that calls for celebrations after months of hard work and learning. From the excitement of summer vacation to the nostalgia of saying goodbye to familiar faces, this time of year is a significant milestone in the lives of students, educators, and families alike. In this episode, we travel across the Vancouver School District to speak to students and educators about their memories, reflections, and celebrations that encapsulate the end of the 2022 to 2023 school year.
All right, you know the words. Here we go. Oh, darling, darling, stay by me. Oh, stay by.
That was Trent Gauthier, one of the Indigenous education workers here at VSB, setting the stage with his performance of Stand By Me. He sang at the inaugural Peter Henderson Bryce Ally Awards. The VSB Indigenous education team held the event to honor people who work to advance Indigenous knowledge and reconciliation as leaders and allies. At the event, 6 people were honored, from principals to museum curators to secondary school teachers. Each were recognized for their contributions, walking alongside Indigenous peoples, supporting them and their stories. One of the ways the Vancouver School Board supports students who identify as Indigenous is by hosting a special graduation ceremony, in addition to their school's graduation ceremony. The Indigenous grad ceremony celebrates the unique achievements and culture of students who identify as Indigenous and acknowledges their families, friends, and educators who supported them in their unique educational journeys. We spoke with a student who shared their experience as an Indigenous student and what they thought about the ceremony.
My name is Emily Prest. I'm from Sir Winston Churchill. From my dad's side, I'm from the Newhawk Nation of Bella Coola, and from my mom's side, I'm Chinese. I think it's a really important event that celebrates the youth of Indigenous people in Vancouver. My advice is to work as hard as you can and believe that you can make it, that you could accomplish your dreams.
For Acting Director of Instruction for Indigenous Education, Chaz Desjardins, the event is a way to celebrate Indigenous students as they transition to a new phase of their lives.
Well, education is important, and our elders always stress that, education is, we need to continue our education, and we hope that, within the VSB and as educators, administrators, that we've been able to provide them with a learning environment in which they feel that they can become themselves. Of course, as the Director of Instruction in Indigenous Education, I'm proud of all the students who really persevered through the system, which is still colonizing our students. And they sit before us, they're so proud when they cross the stage, and that is the greatest gift of this event, is that we get to celebrate them in front of their families. In regards to identity, it's important that young Indigenous people be proud of who they are, and that they know that their elders and their family all value education, and that they continue on the traditions of the people who came before them to continue their lifelong learning journey.
Those journeys and traditions are all part of larger stories, and those stories are important to share. There are things that are passed down from generations to generation, elder to youth, and they connect the people who hear them with the people who share them. Not only that, they also connect us to culture, history, and the world around us. Let's take a look at 2 different events that took place where the district invited Indigenous figures to share their stories with students. First, we head to Gladstone Secondary, where earlier this month, Indigenous chef and entrepreneur Teresa Contois visited Mrs. Inglis's foods class to share a traditional bannock recipe she learned from her mother that was also passed down through the generations.
I'm a strong believer of giving back to the youth, and that's where you need to start with this residential school. What has happened to the children and understanding is very important. So if I can teach the young ones, because those are the generations when the healing is going to start happening, because they talk about reconciliation, and reconciliation can't take place if the children aren't educated, and their children. So it's going to take a few decades before this finally heals itself. Things can happen in life, but you can always pick yourself up and just keep going forward. And you can't be judging other people because they have a history for whatever reason that is. I get to share my stories, and that's what we are. We're all big storytellers. Even our food has a story behind it. For instance, there's the Three Sisters salad. I'll tell you a story. And the Three Sisters salad was prior to the settlers coming to Turtle Island. It was the Indigenous people were farmers, so they would strategically plant these 3 plants. The squash had big leaves, so it would keep the minerals and the oil, the water in the soil. The corn would grow tall, and then the bean would use the corn as a trellis and wrap itself up. So that's how it grows. So when it came to harvesting, all 3 were harvested together, and hence Three Sisters salad.
After sharing her bannock, Teresa and the students added in ingredients like ground beef and sliced tomatoes to make bannock tacos. The event was a success, and the kids learned a lot. They were excited to try the food, but also enjoyed getting the chance to experience Indigenous culture.
So I'm Kwa Ong. I'm in grade 10 currently at Gladstone Secondary. I think bannock has a lot of Indigenous history, especially knowing where it came from and knowing that it's been influenced, and that a little bit of Indigenous culture is just in the making. Like the stories that the guest chef told us, they were amazing, and I just felt inspired.
Indigenous education worker Malcolm Key is one of the event's brainstormers. He came up with the idea to give students a chance to try new flavors and experiences.
Well, we definitely want kids to work together in a team atmosphere, to work on a food project, to create some food and create a love for food, try to expose them to different tastes from an Indigenous perspective. What I like about it is that we're providing opportunities for non-Indigenous students to be involved in these cooking experiences and something that they prepare together and able to taste those things and hopefully gain an appreciation that there's this type of culinary experience that they can be a part of. I think food is an excellent connector for communities. I think that's an important part of celebrating the end of a day, sharing food together. It's a part of growing our body strong and keeping ourselves strengthened, and certainly when we come together, it's about developing community spirit.
What's your name again? Ruby. Nice to meet you.
Not too far away at Mackenzie Elementary, students from the Gifted Enrichment Center's Indigenous STEAM cohort held a celebration of their own learning.
Kate Gregory, and I worked with your children for the last 5 weeks. And so what we did for our science lessons is we took the class outside.
Over several days, the students had met with Musqueam artist Rita Compst, Rita taught the students where traditional Musqueam dyeing and weaving and spoke about the connections between people and the land around them.
I have spent several days working with the children and teaching them on the connectivity to the land. And so it's so important in this day and age for our children to connect and learn to connect where they are. This is where they're from. This is where they are now. And to connect and be out with nature and to spend time learning that nature is a gift to us. And I'm so very proud of each and every child for having completed their journey and to see what each and every one has made at the end. It's made me very emotional and my eyes are a little bit watery, but my hands are raised to the children for an amazing job done. It's passed down to us and it's just a continuous journey, so we're constantly learning. We have to remind each step of the way that we need to be ethical and sustainable in all that we do.
Just like at Gladstone, the students appreciated the opportunity to learn from Rita. Shreya is a grade 4 student from Nootka Elementary, and she had lots to say about the teachers who shared with her class.
We were weaving with the dyed, naturally dyed wool that we made previously, and we were doing the candy cane weave, which is in and out with 2 colors. I think my favorite part was weaving, and my loom was right next to Rita, where Rita was sitting, so she was telling me tips of how to do it, and that was really fun. She kept saying that the weaving really connects us to the land, because when you weave, the wool that you dyed with was from the plants, and it was really fun.
Made you think more about what's happening in nature. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Indigenous cultures were one of the many important celebrations marked this month. Across town in Strathcona Elementary, students from Ukpe, Crosstown, Seymour, and Strathcona Elementary schools took part in a multi-school pride parade celebrating 2S LGBTQ+ communities.
Love is love. Big white turn.
The parade was organized with the help of 2 Strathcona teachers. Louis McQuaid is the lead organizer with the Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity SOGI committee and helped raise funds to make the event possible.
We all joined together and paraded down the streets of Jackson, Pender, and Heatley, and then we ended up at McLean Park where we celebrated with cupcakes and music and button making, and the Vancouver Pride Society was here too to help us out. Pride means that we make sure that the people that are most marginalized, most oppressed, are cared for and celebrated and brought to the forefront. It sends a message that we're here and it's great to be gay and we celebrate everybody's differences, and just because you are who you are doesn't mean that we don't do anything but love you and care about you and make sure that we're all safe in this community.
And Judah Kwong helped the students decorate their own costumes by providing art supplies and plenty of support and encouragement.
I really just cheered everybody on. I helped, get people decorating, get art supplies, think of how we should do it. But I think everybody kind of got themselves here. And we're all here to show that we love and support everybody at our school. Pride is being able to help everybody feel happy and safe to be who they are.
Students, staff, and their families, as well as allies, all attended the parade. They enjoyed the colorful costumes and the sense of love and inclusion, and of course, they had rainbow cupcakes.
Chocolate or vanilla? Vanilla is here, chocolate is right here.
And one of the big things on everybody's mind is the end of school. For grade 12 grads, this means leaving high school behind and moving on to their futures. Here are two VSB students who are walking across the stage this year talking about school, graduation, and looking ahead. They spoke with reporter Lori Colbert from the Vancouver Sun. First, we have Paige Chang, who is graduating from Britannia Secondary. Paige grew up in Chinatown and the Strathcona area. She has some mixed emotions on graduation.
I'm a little sentimental about graduating, but also happy that I'm leaving at the same time. I think for me, I've had a pretty good school experience. I've immersed myself a lot within the community, made a lot of friends, very supportive teachers, staff.
Paige is a recipient of the VC Scholarship to study at UBC. She is enrolled in the Sauder School of Business, but has her eye beyond the finance world. She hasn't fully decided, but she knows that she wants to share her story with future generations and connect with other youth.
I've thought about going into law school afterwards, after completing my business degree. It hasn't been solidified plan. Of course, I kind of want to work in the nonprofit sector. I'm not too sure yet, but working with youth has been a goal of mine, because I really like having that connection with people and being able to maintain a very meaningful relationship with somebody. And I find that it's a really big value of mine. So working with youth and working in the nonprofit sector, I think, would kind of fulfill my values and my priorities.
But also important to Paige is serving as a role model for other women in the field.
Especially being in the field that I'm going into for university, post-secondary, it is a very male-dominated area. I've been in a program called Girls Who Leap for since grade 7, and I've gone from a little junior member to now a senior mentor. And through that program, I've been able to learn to empower myself in those areas, how to become more assertive and really speak my truth and find my value and purpose in what I'm doing. And now I'm able to do that for the younger girls, I think is really important. Seeing where I was in the beginning versus where I am now has really helped me. And I think that's one of the biggest issues, I guess I could say, that I'm very passionate about. So mentorship, leadership, and empowering women and youth into finding what they really want to do, and understanding that taking up space is important for them, and it's very valuable.
Paige is looking ahead, but reflecting on what's behind is also important to her. Some of her final years of high school happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, but she understands that the experience had its own lessons.
I think, especially after COVID, everyone in my friend group was feeling a little bit more lost. We didn't really, we could call each other, but it wouldn't be the same as seeing each other in person. It's not the same. So I think once we got back into school, it was a little awkward at first, hard to talk to each other. Oh, how are you doing with the masks and everything? But I think we're stronger now, and we know how to find better ways to communicate, even if we're far apart.
Whatever challenges she and her friends have faced in school, Paige knows that they will be stronger for it.
I think from just seeing and going through high school now, I know that a lot of my friends are really dedicated and determined to do well, and being successful is different to everyone, but understanding everyone's goals and kind of their path to get to where they are today, I'm really proud of seeing everyone accomplish the amazing things that they have, and being able to be a part of such a big community, especially in that Strathcona Britannia community that I'm in, is really amazing, because I know that they've all hit their goals in one way or another, and I'm really proud of the steps and adversities that they've overcame.
Another student graduating this year is Nick DeLeon. Nick is a grade 12 student from Kitsilano Secondary. Like Paige, they've been involved in organizing and leading school events. But Nick is a relative newcomer to Vancouver.
I've actually only been in Vancouver for 2 years now. I was born in Ontario. I lived there for about 12 years before moving to Boston. I spent another 4 years there. The point in which I was moving was obviously around COVID, so it was a little chaotic, but it was nice being back in Canada. I think the transition was a little bit easier going from the US back into Canada rather than Canada trying to move into the US.
Nick was not in Kitsilano for long before they were involved in school events.
So at Kitsilano Secondary, I think a big thing for me has been the Pride Club. It's been a really fun time to be a part of. I joined my first year here in grade 11, and this year I've been kind of more in the leadership position of it. I think it's really helped me grow in like the way of learning more about myself on the idea of gender and sexuality. It's given me an opportunity to see all these new perspectives and hearing from some of the younger students who are in grade 8 and have been out for a really long time, and hearing from them versus some of the older students who might be in grade 12 and only just now kind of figuring out what gender and sexuality mean to them. But then it also kind of gave me an opportunity to learn new leadership skills, communication skills, and kind of how to run a huge group of people.
They were involved with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Youth Conference.
Yeah, I was one of the students who worked on it. I did a focus on the communications aspect of it. This year's theme was all about the idea of self and community healing. So it's kind of like learning coping mechanisms and how to deal with kind of the stress of the world, especially if you're a minority, and how you kind of deal with that. There's often kind of a lot of burden put on the communities to educate everyone or fix the problems that they're dealing with. It was all about kind of learning how to heal yourself while continuing to work on solving problems around the world.
Diversity and inclusion are very important to Nick. Throughout high school, they've had the opportunity to reflect on their own identity and what diversity means to them.
Over my high school years, I've been really reconnecting with the idea of being Jewish. I was a lot more open about it when I was younger. I kind of like my family growing up, we kind of every week we're going to synagogue. On Saturdays, I was at the synagogue for like religious school and stuff. And I think I started to kind of, as I got older, I started to kind of notice when people would say things, and you kind of become more aware. And that kind of resulted in me kind of building up a shell and not being as open about it. But when I moved to Boston, the community we ended up in actually had a huge Jewish community. It allowed me kind of being thrown back into this deep end of being around all these people who are Jewish and being around kind of similar people to me. Gave this kind of opening for me to re-immerse myself with the culture, and it's allowed me to kind of be more open and proud about it.
For the future, Nick is still intending to help people. It's been a part of their family story and something they hope to continue.
So I will be out in Abbotsford and Chilliwack. I'll be going to the University of Fraser Valley and doing their Bachelor's of Nursing program. My mom and grandmother were both nurses, and so always like kind of growing up seeing them work as nurses was kind of a big inspiration. And then moving to BC and seeing this kind of huge need for them, I was like, oh, guess it's time. I'm looking to do ER nursing or working in the emergency room, probably leaning more towards pediatric. I've always really liked working with kids and stuff, and the emergency room, I kind of like being in the excitement.
Both Paige and Nick have bright futures ahead. We wish them and all students the best of luck in their future endeavors.
Yeah, we were made for this. Creators sent us down to do this.
To celebrate National Indigenous Peoples Day, the district hosted a special ceremony showcasing Indigenous performers and cultures. There were songs from as far as Alaska or New Zealand, and some that were right here in Vancouver. Right now, we are listening to Musqueam hip-hop artist Miss Christy Lee.
She's gonna rock the world. She's gonna rock the world. We made it for 10,000 years.
That day, we spoke with Davida Marsden, the District Vice Principal of Indigenous Education. Here, she is talking about the day and why it's important.
And this is Drums Across the World. So we have Inupiaq people, Sami Indigenous people, Polynesian people, we have Coastal Wolfpack, Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh. We have everybody from around the world in a good way singing for the children here at the VSB. So for us, it's to lift up Indigenous people. And if you're here on Musqueam territory, we lift up the Musqueam people. If you're from out of Canada, down in the US, that's the drums. It's to lift up Indigenous people of the world, to know that there's Indigenous people not only in Canada, but from all around the world.
Those are some of the events that happened this month around the district. In each one, we celebrated learning in a different way. Sometimes it was about reflecting back on the achievements made, sometimes it was about looking at the world around, and sometimes it was learning about the culture and history of people who came before us. But in all of them, we celebrated diversity and equity and showed off the stories that connect each and every one of us. We have a reoccurring segment on the show called Matter of the Month. Summer break is just around the corner. It's an exciting time for students, but it's important to keep their learning momentum going. I've invited Jamie Sinclair, a teacher at Gordon Elementary, to talk about what families can do during the summer months. Welcome, Jamie.
Thanks for having me.
First off, can you introduce or tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a teacher at Gordon Elementary. I teach kindergarten there, and I believe really strongly in outdoor learning, and I have a Reggio-inspired classroom.
That's great. So for the next 2 months, as we head into July and August, do you have any tips for parents and how they can keep the learning going while students are outside of school?
Yes, definitely. I think it's really important to meet your child in their interests. So whether you're in kindergarten or grade 7, find what your child is interested in. If it's dinosaurs, if it's engineering, connect with those things, and then you can incorporate the math and the writing or whatever you want to work on into that learning.
Can you provide some concrete examples on how that would take place?
Yeah, so for example, if you were to get outside and you're looking at things happening in your community, you might want to look at something like the SkyTrain being built, if that's something your child is interested in. And from there, you could look at different math, such as how long it's going to be or how deep it's going to be, what kind of materials are being used, how much of a certain material, that it could be woven into sort of creating a proposal or designing their own SkyTrain. And those kinds of things make all that sort of fundamental learning just a little bit more meaningful.
They can also, for older kids, go onto the internet and do some research and find some more information in that research aspect, and then use their critical thinking skills too.
Exactly. And if with a younger child, maybe it's gardening, and so you're counting the seeds or how far you have to space them out. You're counting the tomatoes that you've grown. Maybe you're writing lists of things that you have in your garden. And these are all ways that they can continue to develop those early fundamental numeracy and language art skills.
So really, finding opportunities to learn within our daily routine and following the kids' passion will help continue that learning journey as the kids are out of school. How about those who are more academically inclined, or parents who want to focus a little bit on academics? I know in some countries, oftentimes during the breaks, there is a workbook or homework for you to do where you actually do it during the summer break and then hand it in during the first week of school. We don't have that in Canada. So what would you say to those parents?
I think it's a family decision on how you create a learning environment over the summer holidays. Definitely there are workbooks and there are websites out there that will give you lots of sort of rote memorization, practicing grammar and numeracy, and those are great. Like that, those kinds of skills are very helpful. And I think you've just got to think about what will work for you and your kids. Some students, that's not going to be the best outlet. It's just going to cause frustration for you and them, but that's a family decision. The other option instead of that would be playing games, card games to memorize, multiplication. So you could play like a war where you both put out a card and whoever says the answer first keeps the cards. I mean, sometimes you have to kind of let them win to keep the momentum going, but it's surprising how much kids enjoy those kinds of hands-on learning, which provides the same kind of memorization skills.
How about apps? You know, I noticed that there are a lot of educational apps out there. What are your thoughts on that type of technology?
Like I said, also a family preference. I would personally lean more towards using apps that your child really enjoys, or even those educational apps, as a reward or as their screen time. I was talking to a colleague that was saying when her kids were young in summer, they would have to do something like maybe write a letter to grandma to practice their writing. And then if they did that, they would be able to pick some video game or whatever they wanted to do. But there's lots of great educational apps out there. I tend to personally lean more towards that really good sort of take it as a time to spend time with your child and do something one-on-one. Get outside in the garden, write some shopping lists, those kinds of things.
And for a parent who continues to work during the summertime, they may rely on those apps to help them through during the day, and especially now that we have a work from home culture. Do you have any recommendations on specific apps that are educational?
There's a lot of good ones out there, depending on ages. There's some really interesting coding apps like Scratch and Scratch Junior. I will say you need to watch them. Sometimes they can have chat groups in them, so that's definitely something to be mindful of. But I would just go online and search what you're looking for and the age group, because there's lots of paid ones, there's lots of free ones. Look to your child's report card to kind of see what teachers are saying their goals for September are. If you're working on like letter recognition, letter sounds, search those apps. They're changing all the time. And there's lots of great. Book Creator is a really cool one if you have an older child who's looking for a way to show what they're learning or share their findings. It's also great. There's lots of great apps if you have a child that's really into sort of showing their work and maybe their writing isn't as strong, because we don't just have to show our learning through writing. We can show it through many, many different outlets.
So Book Creator, Scratch are two apps that you mentioned, and a really good tip is looking to the report card to find some guidance in what your child needs to focus on before heading into the new school year. And what about secondary or intermediate students? We've kind of touched on resources for the younger students, but what about those that are a little bit older?
I think it's sort of the same thing. If you can, and like you said, there's working parents. We're all just doing our best. So, but if you can carve out time to even try to connect and where they're at. So maybe you want to focus on them, getting better at sort of novel studies or like deeper thinking in their reading. Choose a book and maybe you both read it, and don't have to read it together, but then over dinner, it's something you discuss. And you can totally have Googled all the questions beforehand and seem really smart. But
you kind of have your own
you can have
mini
your own
book club
exactly.
with your own family. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Well, Jamie, those are really good resources and really good tips for families to take away. I know that, nurturing children's passions can really lead to a lifelong learning and personal growth. So thank you so much for sharing these insightful tips with our listeners today. I hope that these tips will help families make the most out of the summer break and create a valuable learning experience for their children. Thanks for being here today,
Thank
Jamie.
you.
I want to take this opportunity to thank our listeners as we finish off the first season of VSB After the Bell. It's been no small feat for the communications team here at VSB to write, produce, and edit this podcast off the side of our desks, but I hope that you found this as insightful as I have. I've really enjoyed speaking to the various staff members across the district, but most definitely I enjoyed the most speaking directly to students. We too will be taking a summer break during the months of July and August. We'll reconvene in September, and as usual, we'll be releasing episodes at the end of the month. We'll catch up with you then. Have a great summer, everyone. Special thanks to music teacher Mr. Bonnell and Nightingale Elementary students for the original theme song. Keep up to date with district news. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at VSB39, or Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Vancouver School Board. And don't forget to subscribe to VSB After the Bell on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.